The third ear. Many talk of the third eye, so what about the third ear? If knowing the inner light is to be enlightened, is knowing the inner sound being en-soundened? I am not a great fan of ascribing some element of consciousness as a place in the vehicle, such as chakras, third eye, DNA, then falling into the belief that makes that part of the body special. The vehicle is within consciousness, not the other way around, so fixating on some location just reaffirms the apparent reality of the vehicle, when to find consciousness necessitates releasing the belief that the vehicle has any reality beyond the belief of it. That just perpetuates the belief that there is an external reality that has some effect over us and turns us into victims of the believed physicality, when, really, it is we who are the masters of our experience, if we only allowed ourselves to be. The journey within is a transition of dimensional awareness. If we take the journey with light, we begin with the belief that there is some light outside which we receive from an imagined 3D reality. Moving inwards, we find the belief that it is the eyes seeing this light, each as a 2D image. I say 2D for the surface of the retina is a curved plane, effectively rendered flat by the nature of the optics. At this point, we should realize that, if there was any external light, it ends at the retina. The light itself is absorbed in the retinal cells and there is no more light. Still within the mundane view, we imagine the energy and information of the light arriving at the retina, being transmitted through the nerves as bioelectrical chemical interactions, a linear, 1D, transition, then, somehow, does anyone know? Being reimagined as light. So the light of experience is not any light from outside, just retranslated information, which we assume comes from outside. Where is that experience? Traditional esoteric wisdom places that point of reception as the third eye, and places that as being in the pineal gland. That belief then becomes further extended, that the pineal gland can become calcified and not operate correctly, effectively making us internally blind. Then we must do this or eat that to clarify the pineal so that we can clear our consciousness. Does anyone have a problem with that? You should. Consciousness is already clear. It is only the experience that is cloudy. If there is any restriction to fully receiving the experience, it is the higher consciousness that has chosen that to be its experience, then projected a symbolism of that restriction into the experience, like imagining a calcified pineal gland. Attempting to clarify the vehicle, treating it as a temple, may make it more comfortable to use, may make you look more spiritual, but also reinforces the illusion of there being a vehicle, and does not necessarily open the true gnosis of consciousness. For me, the greatest openings have occurred in the depths of suffering and illness, especially death. Yes, there is light after death. Many, who have returned from death, have become unconscious during the process, or, on return, do not have the dimensional freedom of consciousness to recall the experience. Hypnotic inquisition may be revealing, and so claim there is nothing there, simply because they have not experienced it. Having died with full consciousness, I know there is a beyond. On return, many reinterpret the experience in terms of their 3D beliefs, and so there are many versions of what is beyond, but that will be for another post. A local family were by the bedside of their beloved granny as she slipped from life after prolonged illness. There was that final exhalation. The body lay still and lifeless. There was that eternal moment as everyone accepted she had finally gone. Then suddenly she sat bolt upright, her eyes wide open and bright with joy, a smile on her lips. "It is so beautiful," she said in a clear strong voice, before she fell back and was finally gone from this realm. Back to the plot. Did you notice I was talking about descending dimensions? Did that seem strange? The 3D of the apparent external reality, the 2D image on the retina, the 1D transmission along the nerves, to arrive at a singular, 0D, knowing of the experience, symbolized as being in the pineal. Were you expecting an increase of dimensions as we internalized? I'd better explain. Lol. For reasons covered elsewhere, the minimum that can exist is 4D. So, the singularity of consciousness, observing a 3D experience, together makes 4D. As we internalize, there become less dimensions of experience and more of consciousness. So, the 2D of the plane of experience is being observed by 2 dimensions of consciousness, that we know as understanding, totaling 4D. The linear, 1D, transmission of information, is known by 3D of consciousness, what we know as feeling, totaling 4D, and the singularity of the experience, such as is known by the witness, is observed by 4D consciousness. That is, as dimensions of experience are reduced to a dimensional singularity, consciousness expands to the 4D witness. An image to symbolize this would be, beginning lost in the reflected illusion of the 3D experience, internalizing being returning to the surface of the mirror, the witness looking out at the experience. Yet, that witness is still in the reflection. There is a higher, pre-reflected witness, the lowest part of the higher self. From that point, it can be observed, directly, that the source of experience arises first in the higher self before it is resolved into the separated dimensions of the experience. Unfortunately, most attempt to drag their 3D preconceptions with them when they enter this higher realm, and so continue with a somewhat 3D type experience, projecting their beliefs into the experience, the right side of the image shown here. Fully returning to the actuality of the higher self is an entirely different experience. Are you still wondering what the third ear is? I hope so, as it was the bait to lure you through the above dissertation. However, having been through that, it should be easier to explain the third ear. All I need is copy, paste and edit. Lol. The journey within is a transition of dimensional awareness. If we take the journey with sound, we begin with the belief that there is some sound outside which we receive from an imagined 3D reality. Moving inwards, we find the belief that it is the ears hearing this sound, each as a 2D image. I say 2D for the surface of the tympanic membrane, eardrum, is a flat plane. Sound, as such, stops there, and the vibration is transmitted physically through the 3 ossicles of the malleus, incus and stapes, to the cochlea, where even the vibration ends at the cochleal nerves and is converted to nerve impulse, carrying only the information of the 2 dimensions of pitch and amplitude. At this point, we should realize that, if there was any external sound, it ends at the tympanum. The vibration itself is absorbed in the cochleal cells and there is no more sound. Still within the mundane view, we imagine the energy and information of the sound arriving at the cochlea, being transmitted through the nerves as bioelectric chemical interactions, a linear, 1D, transition, then, somehow, does anyone know how? Being reimagined as sound. So the sound of experience is not any sound from outside, just retranslated information, which we assume comes from outside. Where is that experience? Traditional esoteric wisdom places that point of reception as there. Oh dear, I have run out of cross-comparative relevance. Lol. Where is the third ear, and why does traditional esoteric wisdom not talk of it? I can answer the first part of that, but not the second part, unless I missed something, always possible, in my voluminous reading. Back to the light first. That inner experience of light really only comes with the knowing of the inner light, what was called enlightenment. Once you do know that inner light, and open your apparent eyes again, it appears everywhere. How could I not see that before? Lol. There is no inside or outside to the light, for all is within the light. Likewise, that inner experience of sound really only comes with the knowing of the inner sound, the sound of silence, the choir invisible. Lol, what could be called en-soundened? Once you do know that inner sound, and open your apparent ears again, it appears everywhere. How could I not hear that before? Lol. There is no inside or outside to the sound, for all is within the sound. On first realization, for me, At least, after many years of indoctrination of believing the ears are doing the hearing, the inner sound appeared to come from the ears. What I had falsely labeled, "Don't ya just love those labels," as tinnitus, ringing in the ear, and spent a lot of time trying to ignore in meditation, turned out to be the sound, and became the subject of meditation. Now, if that were all there was, I could still be accused of being confused, of imagining a physical defect, tinnitus, as something mystical. I must admit, even I had doubts. Then one day, the doubts ended. During meditation on the inner sound one day, many years ago now, quite suddenly, there was a sharp pain and a sort of opening, and sound flooded in through the crown chakra, really loud and piercing. Not between the ears, as one may mundanely expect, nor in the pineal gland, but right at the outer boundary of the skull, and beyond. Now, that definitely was not tinnitus. There is no organ that to make or receive a noise. I would love to know if that is just my personal experience, or whether others have found their third ear, and whether they found it in the same place. I have gone a long way since then, to immerse in the light and sound, and smell, without any recognition of it being related to any position in the vehicle. In fact, immersion in the light and sound negates the awareness of the vehicle. Then there is the amalgamation, where the light becomes the sound becomes the light, till there is only the one experience which is neither light nor sound, nor anything else the vehicle could imagine, for even love takes on a different, more sublime, flavor. That experience is in the same realm as is entered upon death, just a different realm of being, from which it is then possible to travel far and wide within the infinite field of consciousness.